listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Welcome back to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here today, and man, we have another amazing show. This guy, man, he has an amazing story. I know I say that a lot, but you gotta understand. The amazing guests that we have on, it's like they just keep getting better and better. This guy, David Nassif, he is an author of an amazing book. It's doing crazy numbers online on Amazon. Fired at 63, nearly broke safely a millionaire by 69. If that is not getting you hooked in already in the show, well, just throw in your seatbelt because it gets better. He turned his life around after going through some hardship. I mean, man. Imagine you're fired at 63 and almost nothing left. But just 6 years later, he figured something out. We're going to find out what he figured out because there's a lot of clickbait out there. Everyone's saying how to get rich, how to do this, how to do that. But David Nassif is actually going to share his story. Real life story. And that's what matters on this show. So first and foremost, I want to say, David, thank you for taking time talking to us today. How are you doing, man?
Great, Shemaya. Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here with you today.
I appreciate you being on. So kind of take us back. You were working at 63 after 40 years of hard labor and work. You had some not so good news, man. What happened, man?
Well, I was at 63, as you said. I just got fired after 18 years with the same company in a very good corporate position. And I tell you, I would not wish that day on anyone. I did the math, and if we drained all of our savings and all of our retirement, we were scheduled to be broke by 65. And at this point, I'm thinking, who's going to hire me at my age? But, you know, Shemaya, that wasn't the hardest part of it all. I mean, that was very hard. I'm not going to play it down. But the hardest part was driving home thinking, how am I going to tell my wife, Mary? We had been married at that point for 30 years, and she did not deserve the mess I just threw our life into. So anyways, I started looking for a job. My heart wasn't in it. I did not want to go back to the corporate world. That's the last place I wanted. But I had to put food on the table. I had to keep a roof over my head. So I started applying and getting nowhere, spinning my wheels. Most of the people were saying very politely and respectfully, no, the company that fired you, they did the right thing. You're of no value anymore. You're kind of washed up at 63. We don't want you either. So anyways, I didn't know what to do. So I decided to hire myself because no one else would. And I went to work as an independent sales agent on straight commission, no salary, no safety net, no benefits. The first months were brutal, cold calls, constant rejection, mistakes. I tell you, I had more rejection in that period of time than I think I ever had in my life. But, you know, looking back on it now, Shemaya, I can reflect on it as I look back. And I really believe all that rejection, all that resistance I was getting was necessary for me to build the mental muscles I needed to punch through that situation. After 10 months of grinding, I had an incredible milestone. I was suddenly making more money than my good-paying six-figure corporate salary. And for a brief moment, I felt like we made it. But then I realized we didn't make nothing because I'd been making good money most of my life. And look where it got me, on the verge of financial collapse. I said, I have to learn how to invest. I have to learn how to build wealth. But I didn't have time with a bunch of theories and listen to people and trying to make commission off me or whatever, and all the TikTok, influencers, with all their phony stuff. So I just dug in. I read 21 books on personal finance, listened to 13 podcasts faithfully, read blogs, newsletters. Every time I got a good idea, I put it on a piece of paper. Once the paper was filled up, I said, okay, I'm not going any further than one piece of paper because I want to keep it simple. So I take off the worst idea and put the best one on. I kept refining it to a set it and forget it approach. 6 years later, I achieved what I thought was impossible. From terrified of being broke to a 7-figure portfolio and real financial freedom. Shemaya, I now know it is never too late to rewrite your story. Because if I can pull it off starting as late as 63, anybody can with the right direction. I truly believe that.
Hey, I'm not trying to be funny here, but I mean, it sounds like you have more energy than people in their 30s. So I have to ask you this question. Was it that you had a lot of energy in a positive way to get motivation, or was it more strategic in your mindset and your behavior?
Well, I tell you, as tough as that situation was, Shemaya, that wasn't my rock bottom. Maybe it would help if I told you what my rock bottom was, which was a couple weeks later. My wife was going to the grocery store and she wanted to save some money. There was a big sale. She asked if I'd come with her. Well, I had nothing to do. I sent out resumes going nowhere. So anyways, I went with her. I get to this store. It's this discount store. I walk in and I felt like I was the only man in the store. I'm sure I wasn't. Everywhere I looked was women and babies and baby carts crying. I felt like, what am I doing here? I should be out working, providing for my family. I felt like I had a sign on me, the biggest loser. When my wife was checking out, excuse me, I honestly felt like I wanted to scream. I felt like I had this mental straitjacket on from the corporate world telling me who I was, but I was no longer that. They took that away from me. And I just wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but where was I going to scream and run to? It was one of the lowest points of my life. When I went home that night, I faced the facts. I came to the realization the corporate world told me I am of no value anymore. End of story. So I need to move on here, David. I need to get the guy hiding inside me out of here, and we need to fight this thing because I'm not going down this way. There's no question about that. I'm not going to put my way through this. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going down fighting if anything else. And that's where the moment I said to myself, I've got to do something. And that's when I decided to start my own company, even though I had failed twice at it in my 40s. I had emotional scars from this. I mean, one of them, I plunged into a six-figure debt. It took me years to pay off. So it wasn't an easy thing to just say, I'm going to start my own company. I'd already proven I can't start my own company. And the corporate world already proved to me that I was of no value anymore. And so I was really in a tough situation. I felt like David and Goliath, two stories, and I was David in both of them.
When you look back, I mean, you came a long way. If you look from today and just kind of look back over time, what inspired you to create this one-page wealth compass? Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, That's not something that sounds like you just did in 2 hours. So kind of break us down. Break that down for us.
That's a perfect question because basically when I was going through that dark period, I heard a true story that really inspired the whole thing. A scientist at the Max Planck Institute did an experiment. They placed people in the center of a dense German forest, and they told them to walk in a straight line to the edge. Now, these are confident and capable people, but when the clouds covered the sun and they lost their point of reference, the GPS tracking they were wearing showed they were gradually starting to walk in circular motions. Some of them were actually ending up right back where they began, but each and every one of them was absolutely convinced they were walking in a perfectly straight line the entire time. Shemaiah, that was my life story for 40 years. I was working hard, making good money, feeling like I was doing the right thing when it came to investing and building wealth, but ultimately I was just literally walking in circles going nowhere till I was on the verge of financial collapse. That's when I said, I need a compass, but not a metal compass like travelers have. I need a one-page compass to keep me going in the right direction. I'll admit to you, I get really distracted easily with shiny objects and hot tips. I'm off the races in the wrong direction. I couldn't afford to do that anymore at 63. I had a short runway. It was more like a helicopter pad than a runway. I couldn't afford to make those mistakes anymore. What that one-page wealth compass did, it kept me focused on the 30,000-foot view of where I was going so I didn't get sidetracked, and that was priceless. When I got that, I stopped making all those goofy mistakes that I made for 40 years, and I started really making some progress in a simple way in the right direction.
When you think about making mistakes, that often can inspire us to move better and do better. How important was clarity for you, and how did you use it to help guide you from not being the mistakes?
Yeah, well, that's a great, also an amazing question because it really helped me in such a profound way. I can't even, it's hard to explain, but let me give you a concrete example. I doubled my portfolio 3 times in a 6-year period. Most people in finance say, Dave, that's impossible. The market didn't increase that much. You're either delusional or you're a liar. One of the two. Well, I'm not either. Let me explain. First of all, I wasn't day trading or tracing crypto or trying to time the market. I was doing the opposite of that. I was doing something so boring that it would put you to sleep. Okay, and here's the crazy thing about it. When the market was down, I was thrilled. When other people were panicking and selling, I was buying more shares at discount prices. My only regret was the market wasn't down more during that 6-year period because I'd even done better than I had done. But what really surprised me was the math. There's a thing called the rule of 72, and what it says is if you get a 10% return on your money, say, your money will double every 7.2 years, or roughly every 86 months. Once I got my compass in place, my first double occurred in just 30 months. The second one, 13 months. The third one, 29 months, for an average of 24 months per double, way less than half the 86-month time period that on a regular returns. But the secret wasn't the returns. I was doing three things that I hadn't figured out for 40 years, and the compass got me on the right straight and narrow. One, every time I got paid, I pay myself once a month. Every time I got paid, I took a portion of that right off the top and put it right into savings. So I wasn't tempted to spend it, wasn't tempted to, increase my lifestyle or whatever it is, okay? The second thing I did is I put it in the right kind of investments. Okay, and Shemaiah, I only invest in I only have two funds. It's incredibly simple how this is. One fund is I own every publicly traded stock in the United States. The second fund is I own every publicly traded stock outside the United States. So I literally own every publicly traded stock on the planet. For me to go broke to zero, the entire world economic system would have to collapse to nothing. And if that happens, we got bigger problems than money. Okay. But the third thing I did, which I hadn't figured out for 40 years, is I used market volatility to work for me instead of against me. Too many people, they buy high and sell low because they let their emotions dictate their investment strategy, which is the worst thing you can possibly do. I ended that cycle, and I was so grateful I did, because I loved it when the market was down. I was getting things at discount prices. Picture this scene. You go to the department store, it has a sign, 50% off sale. Do you ever go up to the clerk and say, hey, I don't want to know 50% off. I only pay full retail for stuff. When's the thing go back to full price? You would never do that. It's crazy, okay? But people do that every day with the market. Oh my gosh, the market's down 30%, 20%. I got to get out. I got to get in cash. No, that's when you want to buy. That's when things are on sale. For over 200 years, the history of the market is every time it's gone down, it has not only fully recovered, but has gone on to new heights. A 200-year history is good enough for me. I sleep really well at night knowing my money's safe. So basically, I learned how to, with a compass, build my wealth twice as fast, and here's the important part, with half the risk. Compared to how so many other people do it, compared to how I did it for 40 years.
Once again, listen to Refocus Radio, watching us online, talking to our guest today, David Nassif. He has a website you can go visit. It's onepagewealthcompass.com. That's onepagewealthcompass.com. My next question is, when you think about younger listeners and viewers on the program, those in their 20s, 30s, who want to escape that cubicle for life trap, if I can call it that, what's a good system that you would like to recommend to them just to get their feet wet?
Well, the first thing I'd like to recommend, if it's okay, I'll just show you the compass. I'm going to give it to all your listeners for free. They can go to my website and download it, so that I'm not pitching anything. It's just a free gift for everybody. But basically, if I was in my 20s starting off, boy, I wish I would have had this then, because instead of 63. But if I would just start with, on the one side, we have the 9 trail markers. This tells you how to get from where you are to financial freedom in a step-by-step, simple way. This next one is the 5 North Star principles, the other side. This keeps you out of trouble. In other words, this keeps it so when you want to veer off and if you get a new shiny object or the hot tip, it keeps you grounded and saying, no, this is not right. I didn't want to do that anymore. Okay, that's how I do it. And basically, when you have these things together, you have laser-like focus financially. You have the kind of clarity very few people ever get. And basically, what I would just recommend a new person is to start from wherever they're at. If you're like, I'm number one is career and income success. I read those 21 books. Very few of them ever talked about career and income. They just assume you're making good money or you wouldn't be reading their book on how to invest. Well, that's not true. A lot of people are underemployed, underappreciated, underpaid, and this is a problem for them. So my first 2 chapters in the book are devoted completely to that. One thing I was pretty good at most of my career is making good money. I made well above average most of my career. I'm embarrassed to admit that now because you think at 63 I'd have been, set for life, but my crazy investment strategy did not work. So, or maybe you went into debt. Maybe you're in debt. They say, "Oh, I have good income, David, but I am in debt." Well, then you start at number 3, debt freedom. So it's basically, I would just say, start where you're at. There's no one size fits all. This fits all, but it's customized to wherever you're at in the process. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and for our listeners and viewers who are in their 50s, 60s, and they feel like, man, time is not really on my side. Maybe that's a thought they have. What would you suggest to them to reconsider and start thinking about?
Oh man, if I only wish I wish I'd have known this in my 40s and 50s. I mean, for people to say it's too late, it's crazy. Here's what I found out, okay? The game is over at 63. It's the second half, and that's where championships are won. So please do not be thinking it's too late for you. If you're in your 60s, if you're in your 50s, if you're in your 40s, oh my gosh, you have a great opportunity, okay? And what I just say is go to onepagewealthcompass.com/free and download this free for yourself and just look it over and say, wait a minute, I can do this. This is not complicated. There's nothing on here that's complicated. I'm not a real super smart person. Obviously, I wouldn't have messed up for 40 years of my investing. This is made for the average person, not for the Wall Street sophisticated investor type person.
I love how you compare it to sports because it's almost like you're looking at my notes here. My next thing is you mentioned quite often, I listen to some podcasts that you feature on. You mentioned quite often people, professional athletes, specifically NBA players who have earned millions in their career. Unfortunately, 60% of them end up having some financial issues or worse, end up going broke after retirement. Kind of tell us a little bit more about that study and how people can learn from that.
Yeah, a lot of people think, Shemaiah, that, oh, David, if I made as much money as you do, or if I made as much money as Shemaiah made, I could invest money too. But I'm living paycheck to paycheck here, buddy. I don't have that kind of extra money around. Well, let me tell you why that's a lie, okay? And like you said, you referred to, the average NBA player makes over $10 million a year. I didn't say in his career. I said in a single year. I mean, can you picture that amount of money in 1 year? And yet, after 5 years of retirement, 60% of them are broke, according to the Netflix documentary Broke. And the NFL is even worse. After only 2 years of retirement, 78% of them are either bankrupt or in serious financial stress. That's according to Sports Illustrated. Now let's compare that to Dale Schroeder, a basketball-loving carpenter who made average to below average income his entire life, and yet he chose to live on less than he earned and invest difference wisely. He ended up with a $3 million portfolio. That's more money than most of the NBA and most of the NFL players, and they're tens of millions of dollars. So here I'm to tell you this. Don't ever think I don't make enough money, because Dale Schroeder will laugh at you, okay? And what I found when I built my compass, when I created my compass, is making money is different than building wealth. I never understood that concept. Those pro athletes, they were amazing at making money. I mean, they were the elite of their profession, and they were making money that most people only dream about, okay? And yet most of them, not all of them, but most of them were terrible at building wealth. Dale Schroeder, on the other hand, he was not that great at making money. Let's be honest. I mean, nice guy, but not making money. But he was a master at building wealth. Two separate skills. I thought for 40 years, because I made good money, I knew all about money, and I didn't need any help with money, that kind of thing. And man, was I wrong. Yeah, I knew how to make money, but I didn't know how to build wealth.
So again, listen, I'm Refocus Radio watching us online. Man, I have to tell you, David, this is a really great episode. I think a lot of people are going to learn a lot from this and appreciate what you're saying. I mean, I'm going to raise my hand first and say, I want to say thanks for the good information put out there. And for our viewers and listeners, make sure you go to his website, onepagewealthcompass.com. That's onepagewealthcompass.com. My next question is, how important is it to rethink what grit is? Because we hear that. I say that a lot. I mean, I'm a Detroit Lions fan, so I've always been saying that word a lot lately. When you think about grit versus actual clarity, we kind of touched on that, but direction. Yeah. What do you try to how do you try to separate those two? Because yes, on one hand, you do have to have grit, but on the other hand, talent is not always good enough.
Shemaiah, you asked the best questions. I just got to say this first off. I mean, that is the perfect lead into what I want to talk about, because that's critical. Yes, grit is important. But you know what? I had grit for 40 years. And look where it got me when it came to building wealth. Not very well. So grit is important, but it's only half the equation. The other half is clear direction. I say in my book, one of the things I say is clear direction beats misdirected speed every time. For 40 years, I had misdirected speed, spinning my wheels, making good money. Once I got the clarity of the one-page compass, I accomplished more in terms of building wealth in a 6-year period than I did in the previous 40-year period. And so thank you for asking that, because those two are, grit is important, but just that alone, you got a lot of pain going on there, and without the clear direction piece, you got to have both. I think that's my opinion, anyways.
Another follow-up to that is, when you think about staying disciplined with this new mindset or lifestyle, however you want to spell it, how much did that help you along the way? Because I can imagine, just like anybody who, likes some brownies and cookies, we want to have our cheat days, but how were you able to stay disciplined, and how much does that play a role?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm not typical, because my back was against the wall, Shemaiah. I mean, I could not afford to do what I had done for 40 years, and I knew it. And I knew I was given a lifeline with this compass, and I knew that if I messed it up, I deserve whatever mess I put myself into. And my wife, my family was too important to me. I had to end that game, that stupid game I played for 40 years, thinking I was so smart about money, and I just thinking about it's crazy. It makes me crazy. And so when your back's against the wall and you don't have a lot of choices, sometimes that's a blessing, not a curse. I look back at being fired. Shemaiah, and I'm telling you, looking back, it was the greatest gift that company could have given me. At the time, I didn't think so, but now I know so. And if I should send them a gift basket and a thank you note for firing me. I heard somebody say once, they were saying a prayer. They were going through a tragic period of their life, and they felt like they couldn't handle it anymore. And they asked God, please relieve me from this pain. And the answer they got back in their prayer was, I love you too much to deny you of this experience. And that's how I felt, Shemaiah. I wanted to be relieved of that pain of being let go at 63 and nearly broke. In 2 years, we would have been broke. But the Lord had a better plan for me, and I am so grateful, because I'm stronger, I'm more optimistic, and I'm more free than I've ever been in my life, and I enjoy life more than I ever have at this point.
I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to do numbers. I mean, I'm not blowing smoke. This is some really good stuff, because, like I said early in the show, there's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of people putting stuff out there, and some of it's good, but some of it's a little bit fairy tale, like, we like to have our little infinite scroll, and sometimes we feel that there's shortcuts. Well, there's never really shortcuts in life.
I agree with you. And one thing too, Shemaiah, I want to mention is, when people think of a financial book, they go, put me to sleep, please. Okay, boring charts and graphs, and I'll read it right before I go to bed so I can sleep nice at night. And when I read the 20 books, that's kind of like most of them were. I mean, they were pretty boring, but I forced myself to get through them, because my life was literally on the line. I felt like, so when I wrote this book, I said to myself, no, I'm not doing it that way. I'm not going to write it for the Wall Street executive person. I'm going to write it for the average, everyday person. And I put stories and case studies of people who failed, people who succeeded. It's just full of stories to make the principles come alive. And when people read it now, they go, David, I never really got that principle, but when you showed me how to do it and how not to do it, and then you explained the principle, it made so much sense. I was embarrassed to ask before. And if I could just read one quick review, because I just think it makes the point that we're trying to make here, is I read all my reviews personally. This one came from a clinical psychologist with 25 years experience, no financial background. He was facing his own career crisis, and he said, the one-page wealth compass gave me the exact hope and practical steps he needed. But here's my favorite part of the quote. I couldn't put the book down. That's what it was written for. It's written in a way that people who don't like financial books will love it, because it's more about real life stories, real life blood, sweat, and tears, joys and tears of joys and tears of sadness that really occur in people's life who get it and don't get it when it comes to personal finance.
Been listening to I Am Refocused Radio and also watching us online, talking to our guest today, David Nassif. Go to his website and get a copy of that book. It is real easy. OnePageWealthCompass.com, OnePageWealthCompass.com, and you can find it on Amazon. I mean, he's getting reviews left and right. And so I need you all to do us a favor and spread the love and share it with someone. Just one person. Like I always say, it only takes one person and boom, like a domino effect, everybody's going to be checking it out. So I want to say thank you to you watching this online and listening on radio. But last thing I want to say to David and ask him this is if you had one more message, final word you want to say to our audience to refocus and get back on course with their finances. I mean, like I say, everyone's story is different, is different levels of situations, but just very basic, get back on course. What's that message?
If you don't have your own plan, you're part of someone else's. Too many people work 40 years to make other people rich, only to discover the horror that they aren't prepared after 40 years of work. Please get your own plan and get for free the One-Page Wealth Compass. Go to onepagewealthcompass.com/free and download it. There's no charge, there's no obligation, it's all free.
That's awesome. Well, once again, you are listening to Refocus Radio, talking to our guest, David, like always. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.